Sorry, guys, we're going to do one more intro before we get going. Well, Rebel fans, that was a game that took about 10 years off of my life. That was a game where if you were had some heart issues, I wouldn't recommend watching that game. That was outrageous, guys. I'm kind of at a loss for words. UNLV takes down Utah State 26-23. Let's talk about it, and let's run. Welcome, everybody, to the show today. Grateful, shocked also, but grateful to be talking to you after a UNLV football win versus the Utah State Aggies. I'm at a loss for I'm at a loss of words, guys. UNLV takes down Utah State 29-26. If you would have told me that UNLV's defense would have only allowed 26 points this game, I would have thought, well, we blew them out. And yet that is not what happened. You saw a spirited defensive effort for a lot of the game from both teams. The Tanner Shanker, you saw missed kicks. You saw awful officiating. You saw this UNLV team is not going to go down in the record books as an all-time great college football team. But if you're a UNLV fan, you will forever remember the insanity of this season and some of the games that UNLV football has been a part of. Let's just go through them real quick, all right? Game 1, Idaho State. UNLV's down 7 points in the fourth quarter against a FCS school, not even a great FCS school. UNLV comes back, wins that game by getting 5 interceptions. Okay, crazy game. Then they get a relatively normal win versus Sam Houston State, who is one of the worst teams in college football this year, but UNLV played fine. Then they get an insane game against UCLA, where UNLV goes up huge, 23-0. We think the game's over. UCLA claws back and has a chance to tie it. And UNLV, with a crazy interception from Amaris Brown, ends up escaping that game. Then after that game, we go to Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio, before tonight, that was probably our best win. Miami is now 5-5 on the season. So, no UNLV before tonight, no UNLV team that UNLV played actually had a winning record. Although I think Utah State might be 5-5 now. And UNLV in that Miami of Ohio game is down by 14 points 3 separate times, give up multiple special teams touchdowns, almost give up a game-tying field goal. Just an insane win for UNLV to win in Miami of Ohio. Then they go to Wyoming. They block 2 punts. That was a crazy game. They're playing in the sleet, the hail, the snow. They escape 31-17 with a nice win in Wyoming. Then perhaps the most insane game of all, they beat Air Force 51-48. And, as the buzzer expires, Air Force has chances, and UNLV, just in an insane scoring output, squeaks by the Air Force Academy. Then a game against Boise State where UNLV, gave up 56 points, scored 31. That game was a little routine. But then 2 weeks ago, UNLV at home versus New Mexico has a lead in the fourth quarter, is down 21-0 at one point in the game, claws all the way back to take a lead, and ends up losing to a good New Mexico team. Then last week was the most conventional win of UNLV's season at Colorado State. And finally, tonight, UNLV is down 13-3 early on in the game. UNLV's defense is struggling. They're just not playing well. They're not playing together. They're not communicating well. They're not getting pressure on the quarterback. The defensive line isn't getting any push. And then something happens, something magical, something very magical. UNLV's defense, and I can't believe I'm saying this, starts to play better, starts to play well even during points. You have to understand, this Utah State offense is electric. They've been awesome all season. And they did get a lot of yards tonight. They put up a ton of yards tonight. But this UNLV defense starts to get pressure. I think they got 6 sacks in this game. And they start to force punts. And then you're thinking, wow, I mean, UNLV's up by 4 points in the fourth quarter. Their offense, which has just been great all year, is going to win this game for the Rebels. And UNLV's offense collapses, completely collapses. Can't get a score in the red zone to save their life, settling for field goals. Some awful, horrific, horrendous, terrible play calling, especially on first down. And we think, oh crap, man, UNLV's offense just can't get it done. They give the ball back to Utah State. Utah State, they've had some special teams issues, whether it be a fake field goal that didn't work, whether it be a missed field goal, a missed extra point. You're thinking, man, UNLV, they're going to drive down the field. They're going to get a game-winning kick at the buzzer, and UNLV football is going to lose to a Utah State team that UNLV really didn't want to lose to. And that's no disrespect to Utah State. Utah State's a good team with a good head coach and good players. And we're thinking, my family, as they're lining up for the kick, we're walking out of Allegiant. We're still in the arena, but we're kind of walking away, and we see that he missed it. Then we go to overtime. Oh my goodness, UNLV gets a chance at life. Their field goal kicker crapped the bed, and in overtime, UNLV misses a field goal. But for Utah State, no worries. On their next possession in the first overtime, they miss another field goal. This one kind of a chip shot. Utah State's kicker has the yips. Then Utah State has a more conventional possession. They get a field goal against UNLV in the second overtime, and UNLV gets put in a position where if they get a touchdown, they win the game. And what happens? Well, you might think, oh, Calandria threw a great pass to the corner of the end zone and UNLV wins. No, it was Caden McGee with like a 25-yard run into the end zone to win the game for the UNLV football team in double overtime. Just one of the most insane games I've ever seen. And listen, man, like I said, this UNLV team will not go down in the record books as an all-time great team, but they will go down as a winning team. And I thought my 8-4 UNLV season record prediction was looking pretty good tonight. I was thinking, man, they're going to go 8-4. They're going to lose the game to Hawaii. They're going to split that Hawaii-Reno last two. And UNLV football, even though a lot of it is because Utah State was making mistakes, they still won the game. And when you win, you have nothing to apologize for. Let's go over some of your comments, guys. We have Masked Rebel. Good to see you. Tanner Shanker. Yes. I think that I was saying, obviously Matthew Sluka, we had some NIL issues last year with him and disputes about how much he was owed. I think it's only fair that we send some of the Matthew Sluka NIL fund to Tanner Shanker. That's not his name, but Tanner, because without him, we would not be in this position tonight. So we would like to thank formally a Utah State kicker that I know is having a rough day today. But I hope Miss Tanner, the kicker for Utah State, I hope you know that there is an entire city in Southern Nevada that is grateful for you today. And so we appreciate your efforts tonight. It is tough, but hats off to Tanner, without whom we would not have won this game. So Master Rebel says, Team of Destiny, chaos gets us to the Mountain West Championship. Yes. Listen, like the college football world, that New Mexico loss that we have we're going to look back at that and just be stung by it all season. It's going to make it nearly impossible. It's essentially impossible. 0.05% chance that UNLV would have any shot at the college football playoff, and really that the Mountain West would have any chance at getting a team in the college football playoff. But I mean, there's anarchy going around, and whether or not UNLV even has a chance to make the Mountain West Championship is still up in the air. But if you want to call us a team of destiny, it's time to get back to our winning ways against good teams and win some dang games, because this Hawaii team that we're playing next week, rough news for you, is better than the Utah State team that we just barely squeaked by. So it's going to be tough, but UNLV does have a path, and with chaos, you never know what could happen. I'll talk about UNLV's path to the Mountain West championship game here in a second. Some of that is still reliant on UNLV's opponents and the other teams in the Mountain West, frankly. Looking at their games right now, the Mountain West is as follows. Let me go to NCAA football, go over the scores for everybody. I'm sure you're watching these games just like I am. Currently, Boise State and San Diego State are tied 7-7 in the second quarter down there in San Diego in Snapdragon Stadium. You can make an argument that we want either team to win. Boise State also, Boise State has the tiebreaker over UNLV. And so if they both have 2 losses, Boise State's going to get in over UNLV. But at the same time, Boise State is really vulnerable, and they still have to play a game at Utah State, which has been a house of horrors for basically every team that's gone and played there. It's been a really tough place. I don't think anybody's won in Logan this year. And so, there's a chance that you want Boise State to lose this game to San Diego State and then get a third loss in Logan. If San Diego State wins this game, and then goes on, San Diego State plays New Mexico. If UNLV can beat Hawaii, they might have a good lead over San Diego State. You can make arguments for either team winning the game. I don't think it really matters. They're both 1-loss teams. Boise State is a little vulnerable because of their lack of a quarterback, but if Maddox Madsen comes back and Boise State wins out, UNLV is not going to be able to get in over them. So you can really make arguments for both teams. Also, Fresno State currently leading Wyoming in the first quarter. It's only the first quarter. Well, I thought it was the second quarter at least. In the first quarter, 7-3. We want Wyoming to win that game because we do not play Fresno State, and Fresno State will have, I don't know that, if it'd just be nice to knock them out of the, get them to 3 losses. UNLV obviously beating Utah State 29-26, knocks Utah State out of the conference championship race. We saw Colorado State almost take down New Mexico. New Mexico has a tiebreaker over us, and they only have 2 losses. New Mexico's final 2 games are kind of tough. They play at Air Force and they play at home versus San Diego State. So, if New Mexico has 2 losses and we have 2 losses, New Mexico is going to get in. Ultimately, it's still not in our control. There are still scenarios where we win out and we do not go. Specifically, say New Mexico wins out and Boise State wins out. And I think in that scenario, you would get a New Mexico Boise State conference championship game. That would be unfortunate because that would be the 2 teams that UNLV lost to. And so, we do require either a New Mexico loss or a Boise State getting to 3 losses to have a chance to get into the conference championship game. We need either or. One of them can go undefeated the rest of the season, but both of them cannot. That's kind of the outlook of the conference championship race. They found something with that gadget play to McGee. He looked great tonight. I agree. I thought that was a good thing. It wasn't just kind of fluky at the end of the game. That was something that they clearly worked on. Caden McGee, man, I don't want to give him the MVP, but he certainly was awesome tonight. And good for him, man. He took a couple of really tough hits. I'll talk about the defense in just a sec, Vinny, because I do need to give the defense some flowers. Also, no clue why Utah State didn't try to get closer for the field goal both times, especially the second try. I don't think Bronco Mendenhall, who I think is a very good coach, who I would, love to have as our coach at UNLV, to be honest with you. Not that I'm not happy with Dan Mullen, but Bronco Mendenhall didn't have a good end of that game. I think the officiating, some of just the weirdness that was going on kind of threw everybody off their balance a little bit. And so ultimately, not a great effort for Bronco Mendenhall to end the season. At home, though, Hawaii only has 5 road wins in 4 years under Chang. Yeah, UNLV next week will play Hawaii. Hawaii is also a team with 2 losses. And if UNLV can defeat Hawaii, they would knock Hawaii out because Hawaii has 2 conference losses. They would knock Hawaii out of the conference championship game. That's going to be a tough game, though, guys. I got to be real. Hawaii's good. Hawaii's dang good. Why does UNLV have the tiebreaker over San Diego State if we both have 2 losses? I think, listen, it could get complicated here. If UNLV, if New Mexico beat San Diego State, if San Diego State beat New Mexico and then Boise State beat San Diego State, because UNLV beat Hawaii, they would look at common opponent, I believe. And UNLV would be ranked higher in terms of winning percentage, and their record would just be better. And they might even be getting a vote in the college football playoff ranking. I'm not saying they're going to be a ranked team, but they might be a team receiving votes. It goes to overall winning percentage because we have no head-to-head. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how it all works out, but I think that's the correct thing. Yeah, it goes to overall winning percentage. But, New Mexico and Boise State are going to be our issues. We need them to get to 3 losses. And I'm not sure how that's going to happen. That game took 5 years off my life. Totally agree, man. I was stressed out. I was really struggling. Tavon says, I will not tolerate Paul Gunther disrespect, and you will not receive any Paul Gunther disrespect from me tonight. This was his best effort as a defensive coordinator on the season. They weren't perfect, but they were certainly better. They played a completely reasonable game. They only gave up 23 points in regulation, and I'll talk about the defense in just a sec, but that deserves credit. Mike, good to see you, Mike. Appreciate you, dude. This team, man, totally. This team. I'm not mad if anybody has to take a pill or a shot of whiskey after that win. Yeah, I think we all need to take a nap. I know it's raining in Vegas, but kickers forget Allegiant is a dome. Yeah. Honestly, if the game was played outside, the kicking game being so bad for both teams would have been even worse. Let me make sure. I'm going to talk about this comment, Daryl. I want to go through everybody else's comments before we and leave your guys leave your comments in the comments here. I'd love to hear them. Heart attack. The Utah kicker was secretly one of ours, wasn't he? Yes. Regardless, a win is a win. Let's go Rebels. Yes, BG. Let's go. What a game. I just talked about the Mountain West Championship. We have a chance. We got to win out though. Defense kept us in the game. Yep. I'll talk about the defense in just a sec. Caden MF McGee. Yeah, dude, he deserves that tonight. New Mexico almost gives you the Mountain West Championship birthday, and then the Nevada Reno decided they were Ohio State with a blowout win over San Jose State. Yeah, shout out to Reno for, I mean, I don't want to say shout out to Reno, but what they did to San Jose State today was disgusting. And San Jose State, I thought they were going to be good this year, and I was totally wrong. I was just completely off. Janet Kelly, hey mom, good to see you. I'm getting too old for this. Love my Rebels. Winning never gets old. Yep, just win and never apologize for winning. UNLV wins the games. I totally agree. That officiating tonight was really bad. That one ref missed plenty of PI calls. Yeah, and I'll talk about this a little bit with the offense, but the officiating tonight was truly puzzling because it felt like they clearly had no idea what was happening play to play. The officials, if there was a fumble, had no idea who had the ball. They didn't seem like they were really looking. Weird calls were being made by officials that were nowhere near the play. And there was like very few PI or holding calls all game. There was not one PI called. And I feel like Caden McGee, especially, Jaden Bradley, was being held all night by the Utah State players. And Utah State was getting away with a lot. And UNLV was too, don't get me wrong. It goes both ways. I don't think the officiating in this game, I do feel like it hurt UNLV a bit more, but I'm also a biased fan. So, take that for what you will. But ultimately, I just don't think the officials had control over this game whatsoever. Utah State was gifted a timeout and gifted like an unlimited play clock in the third quarter. In one of the most bizarre exchanges where Utah State seemingly called his timeout and then kind of took it back, and the refs just kind of let them. And then UNLV should be allowed, if this is going on, UNLV should be allowed to get defensive substitutions in. And then the refs, say that we're doing an illegal substitution during the play, and they just didn't have control of the game. And I feel like it made for a worse viewing experience for both Utah State and UNLV fans, and just wasn't a good officiating crew tonight. And they just didn't have control of the game. And they weren't making calls. There were holds, blatant holds on both teams that weren't being called. There were PIs on both teams that weren't being called. And it just felt like they couldn't control the game. Conference schedules are all about familiarity. No easy game. Yeah, I totally agree. The defense is horrid, yet UNLV survived. I don't think they were horrid tonight. There you go. East Carolina is scary right now. Beat Memphis for the third time in a row and tied for first in American. Yeah, I watched that. Here's the thing, man. The American is cannibalizing itself. I still believe that any American team that wins that conference with 2 losses or fewer is going to get into the college football playoff. But there's anarchy going around. And the fact that, it makes that UNLV New Mexico game especially really frustrating, because UNLV, if they were 9-1 right now, they'd be in a driver's seat for a college football playoff spot, given the results today. And it's just disappointing. All you can do is win out. If they go 10-2, I'm not going to burn the city down. I'll be pretty happy. But just the missed opportunities kind of suck. The offense needed to build around their RBs. Yeah, let me talk about this. Jet Thomas was out today. He didn't play. And the rushing attack clearly suffered because of it. Jalen Glover had a terrible game. I think he's also dealing with injuries, so I do want to give him a little bit of grace there. Kevon Lee had some okay runs, but UNLV's rushing attack just could not get it going today. And that, as much as anything, was part of the reason why the offense was so stymied and just didn't have the confidence that you would expect them to have. Gosh, guys, tons of comments. I'm trying to make sure I get through all of them. I'm happy with 3 bowl games in a row. Yes, that's a very good thing. Sarka got hurt today. Yeah, New Mexico is playing at Air Force next week, and we were kind of hoping that would be a loss for New Mexico. Not that I like rooting against New Mexico, but I want UNLV in the championship game. And Air Force's quarterback goes down. Air Force is not quite as intimidating as they used to be. Next year, UNLV needs to concentrate on defense portal. Yes, I totally agree. I love the Mountain West Conference. I love all the Mountain West team, but I'm a New Mexico fan by trade. UNM is defeated at home, so that San Diego State game is going to be huge. Yeah, New Mexico controls their destiny more so than UNLV does to the conference championship game, because they hold the tiebreaker over a team above them, tied with them. UNLV now knocking out Utah State. I don't know. We'll see, but I hope it's Vegas. Yeah, I totally agree. If any Mountain West team gets in besides UNLV, I would hope that it's New Mexico. To be honest with you, rankings. I'm confident our defense is talented. All right, I'm gonna scroll through a little faster on some of this, guys. Why do the coaches not spy these QBs that are run first? Well, Bryson Barnes. If you wanted to nitpick, which I thought this was, I guess I'll just get into the defense right now. This was a very good defensive performance, especially considering what we have seen from the UNLV defense on the season. Let's pull up the stats here. UNLV, I still can't believe we won this game, guys. What a stupid victory. I mean, stupid doesn't mean like we shouldn't have won. I mean, you can make a very legitimate argument that we should not have won that game. And I'm sure Utah State fans are making that argument. But, you take a win where you can get it. And if you want any consolation, that 5-point play that Utah State got against the Running Rebels a couple of years ago, I still haven't forgiven them for that one. I don't know if I'm willing to say we're even now, but maybe we are even. I'm not sure, but I might tweet that later because I feel like we've had some bad mojo against Utah State over the last couple of years, and this one kind of felt good to exercise some demons because UNLV was robbed again in a basketball game against Utah State. Looking at the UNLV defense tonight, in terms of, let me go to the box score here. In terms of tackling, UNLV, I thought some players had really good games. Marcel McDuffie was dealing with some injuries. He actually went out of the game for a period of time in the second quarter. He had a good game tonight. I want to shout out Jake Pope, who has had he's been kind of a lightning rod of a player for UNLV this season. I thought he had a good night tonight, a very good night tonight. He obviously had that sack and tackle for loss. He was better tonight. There were still some bad coverages early on in the game, but when he was on the field, things did look better. Andrew Padrell, solid game. Jaheim Joseph. I really like this guy. Blessing Aloha Tuamataolo or whatever. I'm sorry. I know. I apologize. I can't pronounce your name. But I thought he had a solid game. And Chief Borders had a better game than I feel like he was kind of brought in to be one of our big defensive pieces, and it hasn't quite worked out. But he had a solid game tonight. And, this this UNLV defense certainly gave up a lot. If you look at Utah State's yards, they had 434 yards. I mean, that's crazy. UNLV, again, was outgained in a victory. That's like the fifth time this season that UNLV's done that. They passed for 256 yards. Bryson Barnes, who is an excellent quarterback, really great quarterback, threw for 256 yards, 19 of 38, 6.7 yards, no interceptions. I mean, credit to him. Utah State also rushes for 178 yards. Neither team, I mean, I really feel like neither team rushed the ball super well, but, they still did rack up a lot of yards. UNLV was only called for 4 penalties for 20 yards and Utah State 5 for 60. I mean, these refs were just not throwing flags in this game. And sometimes that was great and sometimes it wasn't. But, ultimately, UNLV wins the game. And look, I have been incredibly harsh on UNLV's defensive coordinator, Paul Guenther. I have called for his job. And look, I said that because the accountability needed to be there after some of these performances that we had, after that New Mexico game where the defense was just giving up big play after big play after big play. And I would be furious if Paul Guenther was our defensive coordinator next season. I would be furious. However, he deserves some credit for tonight. And the defense deserves some credit for tonight. Chief Borders, Jake Pope, big sacks, like Blurt says. I mean, guys, the defense played better tonight. And we have been criticizing and going really after this defense all year. 7 sacks. Yes, 7 sacks. And yes, the Utah State corners did hold Bradley all night. An 11-2 Mountain West Championship, UNLV is going to get a lot of love for Dan Mullen's buddies. True, I totally agree. But before we talk about the offense, I will say that UNLV, let me make sure that I'm not missing any comments. Okay, here we go. I will say that this defense, they held Utah State to 23 points in regulation. That was enough to win. UNLV's defense did more than enough to win. You have to understand, this Utah State offense has been putting up like 450 yards a game, 500 yards a game. They've been throwing tons of touchdowns. They've been playing awesome. And UNLV played good enough defense to slow them down. This was not, that previous game against New Mexico, where New Mexico is not a great offense on the season, but yet they still had 500 plus yards against UNLV. This was an explosive Utah State offense, a very good offense. And UNLV's defense played well enough to win. Did they play perfectly? No. Were they always doing well spying Bryson Barnes, who is an athletic and mobile quarterback? No. But they made enough plays to win. They were getting pressure on the quarterback. And I thought that the secondary play was inconsistent, but they made enough plays to win the game. And so, shout outs to UNLV's defense. Shout outs to Paul Gunther, who I would be furious if you were our defensive coordinator next year. I assume that Paul Gunther is going to be on the staff next year, and I can live with that. Paul Gunther knows more football and has forgotten more football than I will ever know. And he's a good friend of Dan Mullen. So, I don't want Paul Gunther to be our defensive coordinator next season. At the same time, good game plan tonight against a good offense. And you did enough to win the game. And, a lot of this was Utah State missing field goals too. I mean, I think some of the holding Utah State 23 points is a little misleading, but it was the best effort that we've had all season against a team that can actually score. So good stuff. If our defense plays like this all year, and prayers to the USU player who went down. I saw his name. I can't remember his name. It was really touching. Utah State has a bunch of Tongan players on the team. I believe they were singing a Tongan hymn for him, and prayers out to him, his family. Hope he's okay. It got really quiet in Allegiant Stadium, in the Owl, as Steve Cofield wants us to call it. I'm never calling it the Owl, by the way. I like the Calandriseum. I like last year the Hajj Mahal was fun. I'm not going to call it the Owl, but prayers up to his family. And I thought it was a really classy move. And I thought the Utah State players were really touching. Honestly, I thought the way that they handled that. And I just thought that was a beautiful moment. So I hope he's okay. I saw him, we saw him raising his arms and stuff. So, what you get scared of is spinal injuries, but prayers up to him and his family. Noah, good to see you, Noah. Noah says some big visitors this week, a linebacker named Jordan Njoku and a tight end named Jude Nelson. Show them some love. Yeah, shout out to Jordan and Jude, man. Hope you guys can join the UNLV football team. Fun place to play. Allegiant Stadium is an awesome stadium. You'll love it. Yeah, I mean, we have to try and compete with the new Pac-12 as best as we can, and the only way we do that is by winning on the field. That's the only thing we can do. And so UNLV on the season finishes, I think this is the last time they play a Pac-12 team. I guess they finished 2-1 against Pac-12 teams this season. So obviously the loss to Boise State. 9 total penalties. Yeah, prayers to the safety that carted off the field. Face mask. Yeah, there were some missed face masks. Nothing is better than seeing USU fans cry. Yeah, I have several friends that are USU fans. But I'm not gonna dance on their graves tonight or anything, but nice to win. Imagine thinking the Pac-12 is separation and the East Coast will think you're different. It will be the same. Keep scheduling each other good rivalries. Yeah, I mean, I would be okay with scheduling a couple of teams in the new Pac-12. Probably not Utah State, even though I like playing Utah State. I wouldn't mind going up to Logan to watch a game, but I'd love to keep playing Boise State at any and all costs. I mean, home and homes, please. Oregon State embarrassed by an American bottom feeder. Tulsa isn't a good look for the Pac-12. No, it is not. Oregon State is rough. Bro, I can't believe we won. Shouts out to you, Bully. Appreciate you, man. Ridiculous game. All right. Woo, just got home. We won because Bully prayed to the rain gods. There you go. Good stuff, Bully. We wouldn't have won without you, Bully. Any news on Jet? So Jet did practice in a limited fashion this week. I actually thought if I had to put money on it before the start of the game, I would have thought Jet would play. And let's talk about the offense too. UNLV's offense, the way that they're running it, the play calling, the execution, there's plenty of talent there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not good enough. And the last couple of weeks, New Mexico, I mean, I know we scored 35 points, but the offense could have been better. And tonight, the offense, I mean, I don't think this had to be a close game. I think if UNLV's offense can play better, and I'm sure Utah State fans can say the same thing, but I think if UNLV's offense plays better, we don't have to have a cardiac win like this. But my single biggest pet peeve with the offense, and listen, Jet Thomas being out is a big part of this. Kevon and Jalen Glover are generally not explosive play running backs, although Jalen has gotten a few. We're just throwing away first downs. We are wasting our first down plays. Tonight, UNLV, on like 5 separate occasions, it's 1st and 10, they're, 45 yards or 40 yards away from the end zone. They throw a deep shot. And listen, Utah State's game plan tonight defensively, I thought was outstanding. I mean, I thought that they did that Utah State off defense did everything that it could to win the game and played well enough to win the game. They were not going to let Calandria beat them with his legs. They were playing 3-3-5. They were disciplined. They kept plays in front of them. They kept UNLV from making explosive plays like they could have. But UNLV's offense, despite having all the talent in the world, was throwing away first down time and time and time and time again. And I was really disappointed by that. Corey Dennis has had moments this season, has had drives where he looks really good, but boy, oh boy, can this offense, which is, saying post Air Force game, not something I thought I'd say, but, UNLV needs the offense to be better. They do. And they won the game tonight, and, credit to them. You never apologize for winning. But the defense, color me shocked that the defense made strides tonight and the offense lagged behind. And throwing away first down is a big reason as to why. And then, of course, you had oh my goodness, guys, I have to talk about this. UNLV has it. 4th and 1 on like the 40-yard line, 45-yard line, on our own 45-yard line. UNLV is trying to get another score before the half. 4th and 1, it's not even 4th and 1, it's actually 4th and inches. And UNLV, after 2 timeouts, there were 2 timeouts called, runs a QB draw. That was horrific. When you are that close to the line to gain, when you only have a quarter of a yard and you just get a first down, you do not line up in a shotgun. You do not line up for a QB draw. Your QB needs players in front of him, and you need to get the first down. And that is something that has bugged me all year with this UNLV offense. Their first down awareness, their line to gain awareness has not been up to snuff. Their play calling has not been sharp enough. I'm disappointed in how UNLV's offense has played, especially the last few weeks. And I think that if the offense plays better against New Mexico, we can win that game. If the offense plays better against Boise State, that can be a much more competitive game. And this offense, I do think that there are some talent limitations on the defensive side of the ball. And the offense doesn't have we don't have a great offensive line. I mean, it has good players on it, but we could be better on the offensive line. But there's plenty of talent on that offense. And only 23 points in regulation, that's not enough, man. I mean, Calandria has to be better. Calandria threw a really dumb pick. Some of the throws and decisions he was making were not great. Calandria was fine tonight. I mean, I don't want to throw any of the blame on him. He was good enough to win the game, but I don't think that everywhere else they were. And I would put that more on the coaches and the play calling than on the individual players themselves. And so, with the offense, just we're throwing away first down way too often. And we can't do it anymore. It's really frustrating. And I think that this offense, if we want a chance to go 10-2, if we play like we played tonight against Hawaii next week, we're going to lose, guys. If the offense doesn't play, if the defense plays like they played tonight against Utah State, we'll have a chance against Hawaii. But if the offense plays like they played tonight, we're going to lose. Not like Hawaii is a great road team, but it's just going to require more from the offense and play calling, decision making, being aware of where the line to gain is. That's really important. And I think it's an area where this UNLV offense has been lacking. I thought there was a late fumble, totally. Any use on Jet. We just talked about that. I'm mad 2 years ago when Utah State got the 5-point play to win the basketball conference opener rigged. I mean, I don't think that was the opener, but there you go. Okay. Whoa, guys. Holy moly. We are just comments galore. Let me make sure I get through all of them. Against that offense, tell me we're going to hold them to 23 points. I would have thought we won by 17 easily. I agree. UNLV did pressure the quarterback very well. Yeah, Jet was not on the sideline tonight. I actually saw a video of him arrive at Allegiant Stadium, and then I didn't see him on the sideline. So I hope that somebody in the media can ask about that. I'm obviously not a media member. I'm a fan and a fan podcaster. It's the Calandriceum. Yeah, I like that name. We have to acknowledge the Bundy. We don't acknowledge the Bundy. Sorry. He warmed up. Did Jet? Yeah, I thought Jet was in the stadium. So offense was rough. Totally agree. San Diego State just scored a touchdown. They're up 13-7 with the extra point to come about a minute until halftime. Good. Either result can be beneficial for UNLV. I think the Boise State result is a bit higher risk, high reward if we want Boise State to lose. But that Hawaii game, we do have a rivalry trophy versus Hawaii, the Rainbow Warriors. We get to play for the giant golden pineapple, one of the coolest trophies. So I hope everybody can come to Allegiant Stadium next weekend. Sure did, especially in the first half, at least 2 TDs. Yeah, I mean, the offense gave up points, and I know that Utah State gave up points too. It felt like both teams were kind of trying to lose the game at multiple times tonight because those plays work on our defense. Yeah. LOL blurt. 4th and inches was the worst call of the year. UNLV calling a QB draw and making it, you only have to gain half a yard. But if you're sending your quarterback back 5 yards, now all of a sudden you're taking a quarter of a yard, inches that you have to gain, and making it so you have to gain 5 yards. And unless your offensive line is perfect and allow no penetration, you're going to get stopped in the backfield. And that's exactly what happened. And coming out of that, with that play call after 2 timeouts was horrific. I was so frustrated. But, here it is. We are going to need Jet next week versus Hawaii real bad. I agree. It's too late to redshirt. So I don't think Jet has a season-ending injury. I think he'll play next week, but I don't really know. I mean, that's not inside information. That's just my guess. Our offense is the same Mullen ran with Meyer when they were at Utah with Alex Smith. Those 30-yard bombs on first down. Yeah, I just don't know if it's working right now. I think UNLV is going to win next week just because the game's in Vegas. If it was in Honolulu, you might have UNLV in trouble. Totally. Hawaii's tough, man. Offense needs to be better. The Hawaii game could be a thriller, or they could demolish UNLV. Depends on the defensive play. I think it depends on the offensive play. If UNLV's offense is playing well, they're not going to get blown out in games. Their defense comes and goes, but to me, it's their offense. That's the key of this team. Defending Calandri on the pick, he thought he had a great play because of the face mask. I didn't see the face mask. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was a thing. I was at the game, but Jet warmed up, then walked back out in street clones, then didn't see him again. Interesting. With an empty backfield, yeah. You can tell Mullen is not used to the Mountain West officiating yet. This is definitely not the SEC, yes. Mullen said in the postgame that it's a hamstring for Jet. Okay, that's not good. Hopefully Jet's okay. We need Jet in order to kind of win out. A couple of more comments here. Masked Rebel makes a great point. Our receivers did drop a ton of passes tonight. And I didn't know that there was a face mask on the free play. I didn't know that for the pick for Anthony Calandria. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. Early on in the game, we had 2 drop touchdowns in the end zone. Those were tough to swallow. And so, it's just indicative of how the offense needs to be better for this team to achieve all of its goals. But tonight was great. I met a few of you at the game. Shout outs to people like Zach, who I saw, and a couple of Utah State fans that I said hello to. Guys, this was a fun night, and we didn't, if you win, you don't apologize for it. And deserve is kind of a loaded term. What does deserving to win even mean? But we did not deserve to win that game. We did not deserve to win that game, but we did, and we don't apologize for it. And so ultimately, lots of room to grow for this team, for this UNLV football team. It would have been a real bummer to drop this game after starting out 6-0 to drop to we'd be at 7-3 at that point. To drop to 7-3 would have been a really big bummer, and especially because it was a Pac-12 team, especially because it was Utah State, who UNLV fans have had our fair share of online spats with Utah State fans. Although generally I find most Utah State fans to be really reasonable people who I really like. So guys, what a fun night. You never apologize for a win. You never do. And shouts to the defense. Shouts to Caden McGee. There's plenty of people to shout out. There's plenty of room to improve. With 2 games left in the regular season and then a bowl game and possibly a Mountain West championship game, if you win out, I think UNLV's chances of getting in the championship game are around 50%. It's probably a 50-50 if you win out. And that's about as good as you can hope for when you drop dumb games to New Mexico at home. And that's no disrespect to New Mexico. And so lots of room to grow, lots of upward trajectory, momentum for this program. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show tonight. I'm going to end it there, but I'll be live after the Memphis game tomorrow. UNLV, the Runnin' Rebels, will be playing in Memphis tomorrow. Josh Pastner will be returning home. I'm very interested to see how the defense plays because they were horrific against Montana in a home loss. And so I appreciate you guys. You guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to go hang out with my beautiful baby girl, who was just born a week and a half ago at this point, and my beautiful wife. And I'm just going to appreciate nights like tonight because winning is hard. And when you win, you just say thank you. Have a great night, everybody. And let's run.